Hello, my name is Itaisha, and today I will explain about adjective clause. So, what is an adjective clause? An adjective clause is a clause that works to describe or modify a noun or pronoun. It will always be a subordinate clause. It appears immediately after the word it describes or modifier. Adjective clause always begin with either a pronoun or an adverb. The pronouns are who, which, that, and whose. And for the adverbs, why, where, and when. An adjective clause answers the question that begins with which, who, when, or what kind. Now, we take a look for the example. The first example, you can read by yourself. In this example, the adjective clause is describing the noun people. It is giving the reader more information about the kind of people that Draco feels sorry for. It begins with the pronoun who and answers the question with which people. Now, for the second example, the adjective clause in this sentence is describing the gas giant planet in more detail. It is giving the reader more description about our planets. The clause begins with the pronoun which and answers the question which planets. Parts of an adjective clause. An adjective clause must have the two parts that every clause has. First, a subject, that what the clause is about, and a verb, that what the subject is doing. The subject of an adjective clause depends on whether it begins with a pronoun or an adverb. First, adjective clause beginning with the pronoun. When an adjective clause begins with a pronoun, the pronoun is the subject of the clause. We take a look at the example. You can read the example by yourself. And in this example, who is a pronoun and the subject of the adjective clause. The clause described man, which is the subject of the main clause. The man wears a yellow hat. Owns is the verb, because it is the action that who is doing. The second one is adjective clause beginning with an adverb. When an adjective clause begins with an adverb, the noun or pronoun following the adverb is the subject. Now, we look at the example. You can read it by yourself. This adjective clause begins with an adverb where. The subject of the clause is the pronoun they. The verb is serve, and the adjective clause describes the restaurant. There are two kinds of adjective clauses. First, restrictive and non-restrictive. A restrictive clause is one that limits or restricts the noun or pronoun it modifies. It makes the noun or pronoun more specific. Restrictive clauses have information that is essential to the meaning of the sentence. The example of restrictive clause: people who are rude are difficult to be around. This adjective is restrictive. It limits the type of person that subject people is about. The sentence is not about all people, but about a limited group of people, which is one who are rude. If this adjective clause were removed, the meaning of this sentence would be very different. The second one is a non-restrictive clause. A non-restrictive clause does not limit the noun or pronoun it modifies. Instead, it gives a bit of additional information. Non-restrictive clauses are not essential to a sentence meaning, but add a bit of extra detail. For the example, my brother, who is sometimes rude to the guests, lives down the street from home. This adjective clause is non-restrictive. It is adding extra information about my brother. If this adjective clause were removed, the main message of the sentence would remain the same. Now, how to write an adjective clause? Remember, an adjective clause is a subordinate or dependent clause. It cannot be the only clause in a sentence, which means it needs to be attached to an independent clause. Now, we look at the first example. You can read it by yourself. The sentence is correct. The adjective clause is describing the farm and is connected to independent clause, which the farm is so much fun. Note that this is an example of a restrictive clause because it narrows down all limits which farm is being mentioned. Now, the second example. This is a correct usage of an adjective clause. It describes or modifies the first three languages mentioned. Note that this is an example of a non-restrictive clause. It is giving us additional information, which is, if it removed, we would still get the main idea of the sentence. The Italian, French, and Spanish all come from Latin.